All right, joining us now is Leslie Sanchez. She is a CBSN political contributor and a Republican strategist, as well as CBS News senior political editor Steve Chaggaris with us here in New York. All right, Steve, we know that our viewers watch CBSN on their desktop, on their phones, and they may be watching for several hours. But let's just step back a bit and unwind what we just heard from the president-elect. There are a couple of things here, specifically with regards to the allegations about the Russian hacking, that the Trump organization seems to be conflating. One is the assessment that was given to President Obama and to the president-elect on Friday, and there's another report that BuzzFeed published on their website. They're two separate things. What are those things, and how is the Trump organization addressing them?
So what BuzzFeed put on their website was a 35-page dossier of raw intelligence that was going around, that people were looking into and trying to verify, that eventually made its way to the intelligence community. They're investigating it. They decided that in order to, they thought it was important enough. They haven't verified any of it, but they thought it was important enough to include in the briefings they were doing for President Obama and President-elect Trump last week, that they took basically a summary of that and put it into 2 pages and added it to the briefing they did for those guys. So the question to Trump was, did you read the 2-page summary of what was put out publicly eventually, and what was your reaction to that? He dodged that question and talked all about the what BuzzFeed put out, which was the raw intelligence, and then basically blamed the intelligence community for leaking that to the public. We don't know how BuzzFeed got their hands on that. We don't know how that got out there publicly, but he is basically suggesting that the intelligence community is behind leaking that information publicly in an effort, at least in his mind, to undermine the legitimacy of his presidency. At least that's the sort of track that he's going down.
You know, it was an interesting sort of 2-track here. While this is going on, the press conference on Capitol Hill, there are the Rex Tillerson, who wants to be next Secretary of State, confirmation hearings. And he said in those hearings, Russia's never going to be a friend of ours. And this is going to be his top diplomat, a man who has been criticized for his dealings with Russia, his close dealings with Russia. So how do you juxtapose and deal with those two different thoughts, but at the same time, he's answering to Donald Trump, who says there's an open door. There's going to be good relations with Russia. Just you watch.
It's not just Rex Tillerson. I mean, Jeff Sessions yesterday was asked specifically about the intelligence analysis of the Russian hacking and disagreed, or at least was a lot harder on it than Donald Trump has been. There are many people that he's chosen for his cabinet who are diverging from Trump on many different issues, not just Russia. So that's going to be one thing to really watch here. I mean, Donald Trump is sort of, I think, setting himself up to be the CEO of this group that he has selected to be his cabinet, but they don't necessarily see eye to eye on a lot of this stuff. The other question is what Rex Tillerson saying to Congress the way he's going to actually move forward as Secretary of State? We don't really know, because Rex Tillerson has no history of governing. He's been a businessman, and the decisions that he's made with regards to other countries have been in terms of business dealings, not in terms of what's in the best interest of the United States of America. And so it'll be interesting to watch him very closely and to sort of see, does he go his own way? Does he go with what he believes, or is he going to be wrestled into going the way that Donald Trump wants to go?
Steve, with the President of the United States, who's ultimately going to win on that one?
Well, we don't know they're going to go mano a mano. Who knows, right? That's the thing about this, is he's picked so many outsiders. We don't have a basis of research to look at what Rex Tillerson has done in the past in the context of being a government official. What we have for him is 40 years of working for ExxonMobil, which is a completely different mindset. He's making deals for shareholders, right? Not making deals for the country. So I can't answer that question right now. We just have to see how this all develops.
Leslie, to you now. The president-elect has been, in the words of James Clapper, in some ways disparaging the intelligence community. And you heard in the press conference today, he continues to repeat that somebody insinuating that in the intelligence community may have leaked this to news organizations. And as Steve points out, there's been no proof of that. He, on January 20th, will now become the leader of these intelligence organizations. Is this a good track for the president-elect to stay on, by blaming the intelligence community for things that apparently they may not have done?
Well, he's definitely calling them to order, so to speak. I mean, it's a bit of an icy relationship. You can't deny that. And the question comes down to, are these leaks coming from the intelligence community to undermine the beginning of his new administration, to some way take away or delegitimize his ability to be a fair observer and really be strong against some of these hacking issues or adversaries. That's really where it is. I think that's where the rub is. And it's going to continue until he gets his leadership team in there and they build a healthier, constructive relationship. I mean, they need some therapy, to put it quite honestly, and they're going to get that once they get going. And I think I wanted to talk about Steve's point real quickly when you talk about Rex Tillerson and, you know, how are they going to perceive Russia? In his testimony, he said there are friends, there are partners, and then there are adversaries. And sometimes an adversary can be a partner. For example, he used Russia in fighting, terrorism around the globe. That is an example. But on these issues of hacking and getting involved in U.S. elections, I think there's going to be a very firm tone the administration takes, the new administration, against any global threat. And that's really where we have to see something new. We don't know what it's going to look like yet, but it's going to be different and it's going to be firm.
Leslie, you know Senator Marco Rubio during the confirmation hearings today for Rex Tillerson. He was very aggressive with Rex Tillerson. This is a man who does have international experience, having traveled to countries all over the world where ExxonMobil has business dealings, including Russia. But Rex Tillerson has been in favor of easing sanctions on Russia, not putting more sanctions in, when there are a lot of people in Congress right now who think that Russia should be sanctioned even more. So how is he going to square that, the president-elect?
Definitely, he talked about it, Rex Tillerson, as it related to business interest and keeping the flow of commerce and trade, what was an advantage to his business, is how he was looking at those. But again, he said, like anybody that would be in that role to take that public service position, is that it's at the privilege of the incoming president and certainly what's in the best interest of the United States. So is there movement there? Yes. Are these positions going to change? Likely. And it's going to be defined probably very early on within the first 90 days.
Leslie Sanchez, Steve Chaggaris, we're going to leave it there. Thank you both very much for joining us.